So good morning, everyone. Another beautiful day. So again, as usual, we start with a short breathing exercise to quiet our mind. So then we can reflect and contemplate, in this world where there's a lot of craziness. The only way to keep ourselves sane, sane or insane? From the only way to keep ourselves, our mind peaceful and ourselves being crazy like others is cultivate compassion. Others are crazy, and if we allow our mind to be affected by that and cannot develop certain level of kindness or compassion toward them, then we ourselves become crazy. Then the whole world becomes full of crazy. And in that craziness, it will become more and more difficult to find peace, happiness on individual level, on bigger global level. But it is not easy to have compassion. to everyone, especially for those which you feel crazy and they're crazy with their actions. Even though it's not easy, difficult, but we have no choice. It's the only way. It is the only way to keep ourselves more peaceful, more calm. And it is the only way that we can contribute positively to the world. Therefore, we have to make certain effort, even if it's not easy and difficult. At least trying. If we try every day, every weeks, months, definitely over the year, we will be able to keep our mind more calm, peaceful, and maybe even compassion. So that we can have some compassion, not only for the victims, but also for the perpetrators as well. And in order to cultivate such compassions, we need to, it's not just enough to wish to have compassion. We need to engage in the practice of the meditations. And not giving up practice just because it's not easy and difficult. And in order to practice, we need to be encouraged, inspired, and reminded of that crucial, important practices. And for that very reason, that's why we're here, to listen to the teachings, so that can maybe give us some inspirations, some encouragement, reminded to cultivate the compassions, and to reduce and overcome eventually the obstacles to cultivate true compassion, which are anger and attachments. And whatever we learn from the classes, may we be able to apply, implement in our everyday life as much as possible. And not only on the cushions, but also off the cushions. All the time. And even more strongly when we are faced with challenges, difficulties. And may our time here together, coming together, good intention, motivation here, become cause and conditions to develop loving kindness, compassion, and wisdom, and eventually leading to a fully awakened state. So that we can continue to be more and more and greater help and benefit to each and every sentient beings. Okay.
Page 73. We'll do the first verse once. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the void destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer,
The
glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakti clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. Page 75, the second verse. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all three ever devout, to all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms, atoms, and all aspects. With supreme faith, I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions. Perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a visual aberration, a flame of lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank all-seeing, subdue the four faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. And the bottom of page 97 or the top of 98, the short mandala offering. Sajipuchi Tushimeto Tarirami Niteyemani Sangeshinto Mitewani Dropunantashina Shapasho Idam Guru Ranamandala Kayatayami. Refuge in bodhicitta, once in English, twice in Tibetan. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye Chodan Soki Chonama Janju Bardu Gani Kapsuchi Dagi Chonamgye Pesonamgi Drola Pencher Sangye Druparsho Sangye Chodan Soki Chonama Janju Bardu Dagni Kapsuchi Da gi cho nam ge pe son nam gi. Dro la pen cher song ge dru par shu.
Kanje do jane zone ta dum je bang be de dam de sun ne de ba ko dam de la cha pa. So I think, as I mentioned before, generally speaking, samsara is not a fun, and samsara is full of challenges, difficulties, obstacles on individual level, on bigger levels, to families, the society, the world that we live in, everywhere. But of course, in certain time, in certain circumstances, become even much more challenging, even more difficult. And we face that on individual level and on global level. There are times which are not as bad as a certain time, and there are certain times which are even on samsaras, even within the samsaric level, is very high. Be in different realms or be in different time, in different situations. That is it's just like storm. Some certain time the storm is much more bigger and worse than other time. And definitely, I think we are experiencing one of those bigger storms at our time, in this particular time. Not only this country, I think in general in the world. On bigger level, on global level. And of course, individually, then again, we have our own problems. And there are times when the problem is less, and there are times when problem multiplies. That is part of samsaric life, being in samsara, that is part of it. So when there is so much difficulty, challenges on individual level and on global level, and sometimes that can knock out a lot of people, and sometimes those situations, events, experiences can kind of crush, knock out individual, and unable to function properly because they are so overwhelmed, depressed, and hopeless, helpless, feeling all of those different, due to all those feeling of those different feelings, emotions, and it could happen. And so how can we keep our mind strong, develop its inner strength and become very strong, that we don't get kind of knocked out by those challenges, difficulties, obstacles. individual or on global level, how can we not be knocked out, become too depressed, become too overwhelmed, that and become too too strong, hopeless and helpless, all of that, and then all this leading to sense of frustrations, sense of anger towards, that can lead to a lot of frustration and a lot of anger towards all other humanities as well, all human beings. You see very often people, you have that kind of emotions, feelings, and then you started to feel how cruel human beings are, how bad human beings are, and so and so, and then slowly we started to become very upset and angry uh, with whole humanity, or with all human beings and all of that, and so that can lead to many different state of minds and emotions, experiences, and reactions, and so forth, unhealthy reaction, response, and all of that. And it is because of that not having the strength to able to kind of deal with the situations, the difficulties, whatever that is. If we have the strength, we will not feel same way, you feel the pain, you feel the suffering, you feel the craziness, you feel the obstacles, the negativities, all of that, but at the same time, you don't become overwhelmed, so devastated. You wouldn't feel so hopeless. You wouldn't feel so helpless. You wouldn't feel so frustrated. All of that, and so much anger and hatred and so forth. And again, it all comes to that, the strength to able to deal and to be able to do that. Then I think we need the inner and the qualities of true loving kindness, compassion, and the wisdom. And when we talk about true compassion, it's not just emotional feelings, which we have a lot of time. True compassions come through basis of understanding, from the basis of wisdom, and through practice. And when you have developed that kind of compassion that is based on understanding, wisdom, and with the practice, that give you strength. While you see the suffering and pain, while you feel the pain and suffering, but at the same time, it gives you a strength. On the other hand, the emotional feeling, when you see too much suffering, pain, when you feel too much, it crushes you, it makes you devastated, overwhelmed, and that is very different, okay? And also that kind of emotional compassions, easy to have. Someone we feel the victims, but it's very difficult to have someone we feel the perpetrator. On the other hand, true compassion that is developed through practice based on understanding and wisdom, not only you can feel compassion for the victim, you can also feel compassion for the perpetrator. So therefore, it doesn't give you same time two different emotions, One emotion you feel compassion for, and one emotion you feel so much anger to the others. You feel like you want to kill them, We have this, when we have this emotional compassion, which is not true compassion, you have these two opposite kind of feeling. One hand, you feel so compassionate, want to save them, help them. On the other hand, you want to almost kind of get rid of the other person. On the other hand, when we have this true compassion that is developed through practice on that kind of, then you have almost same feeling, compassion for both. That is more healthier. That is more balanced, positive, And when you have that kind of compassion, then because then that doesn't lead you so much of frustration, all of those negative other feelings. And so, and in order to have the true compassion, as in many of the Lamrim teaching, it says, you need to have in order to have that true compassion, you need to have some foundations of the middle scope, that is kind of renunciations. That is by seeing the nature of samsara. So when you have that understanding with your own experience, your own personal experience, to see if you are in samsara, if you are under the influence of delusion, defilements, and the karma, no matter what you are, no matter where you are, no matter wherever you are, you continue to suffer. You continue to suffer. When we have that, your own experience of that, then that understanding, that basis, give you the foundation to have the compassion by seeing the suffering of not only the victim, the suffering of perpetrator as well. Because you see they are also in samsara, they are also under the influence of, under the control and influence of karma and delusions. And so you can not only feel the suffering of the victim, you also feel the suffering of perpetrator as well, both of sufferings. When you feel the both suffering, then you feel compassion both of them. And that allows you to be, as we have been mentioning, impartial, true compassion. And that compassion is not just coming emotionally, it comes from understanding of nature of samsara, and the nature of samsara, and nature of the sufferings. And when sudden compassion that comes from that kind of, from that understanding, and that wisdom, understanding the nature of the samsara, nature of sufferings, so forth. Then there is certain acceptance of that, is unpleasant, whether it's individual level or whether it's for someone to the world. There's unpleasantness, there's a pain, there is suffering, there's a discomfort, but at the same time, you somehow have certain level of acceptance of that. And when you have that, you think, what can you expect in samsara? What can you expect in samsara? This is samsara. That is what samsara means. So then you do not get as frustrated as we become now. We see the pain, suffering, and we try to reduce the pain and suffering. Anyway, if there is any possibility that we can reduce the pain and suffering to ourselves, to others, if there is any way that we can improve, increase the level of happiness, we should. But at the same time, there is also certain kind of understanding, acceptance of nature of samsara. And when you have that, then you don't get as frustrated as we normally get. And the feeling of unfairness, feeling of what you call, there's sometimes we feel I don't deserve, or someone doesn't deserve to experience the pain. Do you get it? There is some kind of that kind of feeling. But then just, it's nothing about deserving, undeserving, fair, unfair. A lot of time it's just nature of this samsara. It's just like the animal realms in the nature, wild. We can talk about fair, that any small animals are being eaten by the bigger animals. Can we talk about being fair, unfair, deserving, undeserving? It's hard to talk about that in that kind of life, wildlife. That is the nature of the wildlife. So when we have that understanding, acceptance of nature of the wildlife, that even you see some bigger animals eating survival for small animals, you don't get so upset. You feel the pain. There's no doubt about it. You feel the pain of a small animal being killed, eaten, and the suffering of that. But you don't feel as much frustration, anger towards the bigger animal that's being eaten there. You know, because that is there's nature, and I think that kind of understanding and foundations give us better foundation for the compassion, uh, true compassion that comes with that kind of understanding, wisdom, and that become more strong and not so weak like our at the moment our emotional compassions can make us very weak. And so even in everyday life, um, if you are going in let's say in a summer, if you are going to go to, let's say, hiking, backpacking, whatever, you should have some understanding. There could be rain and thunder, and if you go with that kind of understanding and realizations of that, if it rains, you are more prepared, and also you will not be so frustrated and upset and angry. But if you go with the expectation is going to be just perfect, there won't be any rain, there won't be any, and if it started to rain, you are less prepared and you will be more frustrated, more unhappy, more frustrated, and feeling like almost why this rain when I'm hiking or when I'm packing, Why can't it stop? Why can't it come next day, next week? Why it has to be when I'm hiking, that kind of things, because it's about mentally accepting and being aware of that or not being aware of that. Make huge difference. And it's because sometimes, we our mind become naive in a way, almost like naive. Even though we are samsara, we think it is a pure land. It shouldn't be happening here like that. Because in pure land, it shouldn't be having any pain and suffering. So how can that be? But samsara is like that. Samsara, and definitely, even within the samsara, definitely the suffering can be reduced. Definitely, the happiness can be improved, and we don't kind of, again, what do you call? We don't just kind of um, put it aside. But at the same time, it is like that. The nature of samsaric human beings, we all go through a certain level of sickness. Some worse, some little, light. We all have to go through death. We all have to go through aging if we live enough. And these are something, it's not something like happening or shouldn't be happening. It's the nature of it. And to be able to accept that, to be able to, that can make us less painful, less frustrations, less angry, all of that. But if we are unable to accept that, why human beings should get old, why they should die, why they should get sick, then when we do encounter it, and we will encounter it, it will be much more painful, much more suffering. And then that is where we feel, why this happened to me or my families. But if you really look with open mind, it is happening to everyone. Everyone, you look, everyone. It is happening to everyone. That is how it is. And it is not just happening now, it has happened in the past, it will happen. Even with development of all this new technology, medicine, all of that, the sickness hasn't gone. Sudden sickness has gone, new sickness has come. That seems to be the case. Keep on doing that. Certain problem that used to have in decades, centuries have been gone, but then there are other new problems. So therefore, as long as samsara, meaning as long as there is a delusion, defilements, problems are going to arise. Suffering going to arise. And it is on how we can make it less painful. Okay? How we can make it less painful. As long as we're samsara, we cannot kind of escape unless we are out of samsara, unless we are free from the delusion. As long as we are samsara, as long as we are under the control of karma and delusion, there is going to be some pain and suffering. That is natural. But still, we can make it less painful. We can either make it more painful or we can make it less painful. And that is the practice that we have been going through. Are the mind trainings, are the practice to how to make it less painful, and how to make it less painful, how to make it turn it into something positive, into the path. How can it make, instead of crushing us, how can we make that as a way to develop even more strength? Instead of losing compassion, how can we make it to develop even more compassion? Instead of making it to lose our patience, how to make it to develop even more patience? And so the practice that so it is so that is what we have been kind of more or less going through different verses in relation to all of that. And it requires practice, the mind training, the lojong, that which we have been going. It requires practice every day, and especially when we are not faced with huge challenges, difficulties. If we don't practice, and when challenges come and we try to apply, it doesn't help so much. And then we feel, oh, this practice is not effective, it's not beneficial. It's just like certain meditation, certain medications. To have effect, you have to take much more earlier, because it takes time for the medicine to kick in to have the effect. Sometimes some of the medication you have to take 1-2 hours before it has the effect. Some of them you have to take a few days before that. Some of them maybe even weeks before you feel the effect of that. Same way, the meditation, effect of meditations, practice, certain practice, in order to have effect in our dealing with our difficult situation, it takes time, and so you need to build up the practice. When everything's fine, we forget about it. Some things goes wrong, and we try to apply it, and then your practice is not so strong, and then the negative emotion too strong, then it's hard to have the strong impact or effect. And so the lojong practice is all learning about how to look positively in everything, training your mind to see positiveness in everything. As I mentioned before, to be able to see a little bit of light in every darkness. And it is that tool. Lojong is that tool to do that. And if we continue to do that, it is very difficult when the situation is so big. Problem is so big. But if we start training that, even when we are very small problems, small difficulties, small challenges, if we learn to do that, and slowly, our way of thinking, get used to thinking that way more and more. And then even when difficult things happen, naturally you started to think that way. But to be able to come to the state where it becomes natural, we have to practice at the very beginning with the effort, And I've often seen, many of my teachers, like His Holiness Lama, Kyabje Lama Sabalat Moshe, even though they face a lot of challenges, difficulties, and their way of seeing and responding that is immediate kind of reaction, immediate kind of a response is always seeing something positive finding the positiveness in that. And I think they are able to do that because of the training over the years that comes natural to them. Mm. And of course, many of you have heard, and I have shared that story many times, but it is one instant, for example, on individual levels, when in 2011, when Lama Sopa got stroke, when he couldn't move his right side of the whole body, and the moment he found that he has stroke, and then he was unable to move, someone has taken some kind of video at that time, and he was laughing and laughing. He's trying to move his hand and he's unable to move, he was so laughing and so laughing. For a lot of the people, it will be so depressed, devastating to find out now rest of your life you might be paralyzed and that you will not be able to function. That's just that ideas will freak out and so frustrated and all different negative emotions. But for you, it was like just like a fun, he was like laughing and laughing. And that is that kind of response, to be able to laugh to even the most difficult suffering, pain, challenges that you can think of, require practice. But someone can do that with a practice. And also many others, the situation, there are times when he found out, certain individuals have kind of taken advantage and kind of what you call misuse, abuse his support, his health, whatever, all of that. No sense of anger and frustration and say we should take that actions to kind of all of that, but just dedicating, It's their problem, they misuse it, they did this. So there's no bad feelings. Instead, wishing them all the best. So when you have that, you don't need to suffer. You didn't have to go sense of so much anger, frustrations. And you don't have to suffer more, and neither you have to create more negative karma. Neither you have to wish them all the worst, the others. Instead, wishing them best. Instead, compassion. And that kind of response, and it's not like, it's a very natural response. And that kind of response you also see very often with His Holiness Dalai Lamas as well. While he raised the issues of Tibet issues, the damage things that Chinese are doing, at the same time, he defends a lot of time the Chinese as well. When it is, I think there was one interview one of the journalists asking about all the damage and how bad the Chinese had done in that. And again, His Holiness, he said, no, it is. So the journalist, the person is asking a question where to paint the Chinese as totally black for everything they did. And His Holiness actually said, there are good things they did also. Build the road, airport, a lot of development as well, where they didn't have. But of course, also they have done a lot of damage. The damage, more damage than the more damage they have done to than the development they have done. If you but at the same time, you cannot kind of turn eye away from some of the good things they do. Do you get it? And that should be the way, when you don't have any kind of anger and hatred, you are able to see that, despite they did so much damage and all that, at the same time, there are some good things they did, and to be able to see that and to be able to say that. On the other hand, when we have so much anger and hatred and we dislike someone, enemy, we cannot see any goodness in that. Everything we see is negative damage. And because of all our anger, hatred kind of blind us in that way. And that is the key, Even when the whole world wanted to boycott the China for Olympic 2008, His Holiness says he doesn't support that. He would like the Chinese to have the Olympic. It's best for, and even for the Tibetan, he even say, when they demonstrate, they should be careful when the president of the Chinese people, Chinese government comes, how they should respect him as being a leader of billions people. So therefore, while we should make awareness of the bad things or that they have done, damage they have done, and all of that, at the same time, we should respect him as a leader of that. And so therefore, the way you demonstrate, the way you protest should be respectful. And so this is, that is the way, and his response always like that with different individuals, politicians, non-politicians, have that kind of, and I think that is the key to be able to find that kind of balance, to be able to points if there is any kind of mistreated, whatever, to be able to point, able to stand up for that, to be able to that, at the same time to be able to do with respectfully, with the compassion. That is the key. Then you don't suffer yourself, you don't damage yourself, you don't also damage the others. And at the same time trying to find the issue to the issue instead of being individuals, personal. Do you get it? Instead of being personal, it becomes issue. Whereas when we are upset and anger, instead of trying to find the issue, we become too personal. So, to do, so it required practice over the time. Then definitely, one can be able to kind of respond, react naturally in that way if we have done the training and practice over the years, if we try to apply many of those verses now immediately, many of them might not become very effective at the moment because we don't have train and practice over the time, It is like, if you ask someone to jump, fence, 2-3 feet, you will not be able to do that now. But if you have trained not only 1 feet, 1 meter, you might be able to jump 3 meters, And so without training, we try to jump immediately 1 meter and we are unable to jump, and then we think it is not possible. Even though when you are very scared, you might be able to do that. When you are so scared and fearful, we can do a lot of things beyond which we think we would not be able to do that. The monks, a lot of monks, I guess so, maybe not everyone, especially a lot of young monks, they like the soccer very much, and especially when they have the World Cup every 4 years. There is no TV in the monasteries, so they go and watch in someone's house, in a camp, one of the Tibetan camp, and but sometimes the disciplinary will come in. If they get caught up, you can be punished, And one time, the monks went, few monks, naughty monks like myself, went to watch, and then coming back in the night, and then the car comes, and so jeep or car, with the light, and so you never know who is that. It could be the disciplinary, they do come, and then everyone started jumping, and there's a road, and then all here is filled, all is filled, and it was fenced by what do you call bar walls. Yeah, it's dangerous, but when in that kind of fearness, they just jump, and they did that. Normally, if they ask them to do it, nobody will be able to do that. They will not be able to jump yet. If it was in normal, they ask them to jump that, but in that moment, everyone just jump. It's just like, and it is that kind of fear, and so this is a small examples of when we have in that, sometimes we tend to be able to do, well, I guess maybe we have the potential, the ability, but normally we feel we can't do it. And that kind of keep us, kind of drag us from doing, but in that moment, Patch? What is? Patch. You have to fix your robe and you put something. Is this the one? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and one time again we were again same things, and in the road, on the side road, there is the, what do you call, where the water pass, ditch. So there is the farm field, and then there is the road, and in between there's the ditch. And when the car comes, everyone's lie down. Now, I maybe I can talk about it. I wouldn't get a discipline for that. So we're on the emptiness part, and then we went to the last verse where the meditative. And so again, whenever we are faced with any kind of feeling, whatever it is that disturb our mind, it can be frustration, it can be anger, it can be fear, it can be due to whatever circumstances, situations, experiences that we might have experiences, due to that, whatever those different negative emotion arises, if we can try to meditate on emptiness, on the self or the I person who is very upset, who is very fearful, who is very frustrated, who is very depressed, whatever that feeling, the person, the I who is experiencing that, where is that I, who is that I? If you try to do that kind of investigation, analyzing, and then as we have mentioned before last week, and then when you are unable to locate and pinpoint the person who is experiencing that within any of the bases that makes the person, you cannot locate any within your body, within your mind, emotion, and when you can let it, and when you are able to not being able to find, when you are able not even to locate, when you are able to pinpoint, and there's sense of that where you feel very strong sense of sense at the very beginning kind of dissolve, and almost you feel there is almost no self at all. And if you can remain in that without any distractions, in that spacious empty space, then you might not feel the same way you were feeling before. And in that way we can kind of reduce whatever those negative emotions that we're going through. But to be able to reach that point, we have to do that kind of meditation every day. Otherwise, you try to do it and your mind you cannot reach a point where no distractions. Your mind is all boiling all the time, You can never reach to that point where there is kind of spacious, empty space. But if we do that practice every day, and then when that happens, when you are doing, then you can actually just easily go back to that state. And then, and so then we will not be so bothered and so frustrated and upset and angry due to whatever that happens. And we can do that same with the emotion itself. Same kind of meditation, analysis, process with the emotion itself. If you are frustrated, what is that frustration which you feel so, at the moment you feel whatever, whether it's a frustration, anger, fear, depressed, whatever those negative emotions, you feel so real, so concrete, as though that you can actually almost hold on it. You feel so strong, that so concrete, so real. And again, doing the same process. What is that emotion, whatever that is? What is that? Is this a mental consciousness? Is it sense consciousness? If it's a mental consciousness, what kind of mental consciousness? Does it have a color? Does it have a shape? Can it be really touched? it be obstructed, you know. What is that? Is this the clarity? Is this the awareness? Even is the clarity, even it is the awareness, and there are many kind of continuity of that. Each of those many continuity which make that clarity or awareness is each of them that. And so when you do that, then again it becomes less and less clear, you know. It becomes less and less unreal. It becomes less and less inconcrete, non-concrete. And as you do that process and then come to again, cannot pinpoint, cannot locate, and then come to that empty spaciousness and to be able to remain that again, that can be done. So, you know, applying that meditation on emptiness in a meditative state in order to reduce and overcome and let go of whatever those strong, intense, negative emotions that bothers us. So we can use that for any kind of situation that bothers our mind, you know. Okay, we'll have a short break. So again, how to let go of attachment and not get attached to any objects through through understanding how the object of the attachments and the attachment itself and the person who is oneself who is attached, all of them, by seeing all of them as not truly existence, and even though they appear truly existent but not truly existent, like seeing is as like a rainbow or illusions. So here, when a pleasant objects are encountered, so whenever we see any pleasant object, attractive object, that is when we get attached to it, you know. Even though they appear to be as beautiful as a summer rainbow. So when there's an appearance of any beautiful objects, attractive, pleasant object, to us, you know, to our consciousness, it appears that objects, the object of attachment, as beautiful, not only beautiful, but the beautiful as so real, you know, so real, truly beautiful, real beautiful. Sometimes something can appear as beautiful, but we know it is not so real, you know, like in the magicians, when they create, we know it's a false, it's just a trick, even though it appears so nice, beautiful, but not believing in that. But in these cases, you know, there is appearance of beautiful, real beautiful objects. But if you really analyze this, there's no real, truly existing beautiful objects. So therefore, it's like in summer, you know, when you look from very far away, there's a big, beautiful rainbow. It seems very kind of solid. But if you go closer, then it becomes less and less, it becomes vague, you know. Then you can't see the color as beautiful as you are able to see from the distance. Do you get it? yeah, from distance you see it's all 5 colors and so beautiful, and it is so real, almost like so concrete. But as you go closer and closer and you go through, then you can't see the color so clearly, and that, and so the appearance, and when you go closer to it is a different, the appearance from the distance and the closer you go to it is a difference. And same way, you know, to our mind, even though objects appear so real, but if you analyze deeply, closely, just like going closer to the rainbow, if you analyze more deeply, more closely, and there is nothing real as real and as concrete as it's appear to us, as it seems to us. And so therefore, that with that understanding, realization, it is a practice of congregate children to view them as lacking truly existence, abandon, adhering to them. So in the sutras, you know, Buddha have used many different examples how to point out how appearance and reality is contradictions, and how things does not exist as the way it appear to us. You know, even though everything appear to us as truly beautiful in terms of object of attachment, but it is a false appearance. You know, the way things really exist, there is no real, truly existing beautiful object as it appear to us. The appearance and the way they exist does not concord, or they are in not harmony, or they are not in concord, but they are contradictions. And the example that he used, you know, such as illusions, you know, the magic of magicians, you know, egos, the sound, the egos. Mikyu, you know, there is due to some problem with your eye, then you see falling of hair, that kind of things. Even though there is appearance of falling, but it is not really falling. Your hair is not falling. It is due to your, and also it is like when you in the boat or when you are in a car, you know, you feel like all the trees are moving when you are moving, but it seems like all the trees or whatever they are moving. Again, there is appearance of them moving, but it is misperceptions. That is not how really things are. You are moving, they are not moving. But to us, it looks like they are the moving. So there are many examples that would I give, and here one of the examples, like again that. And so this is the practice of the meditation, as I mentioned. The first meditation, we just, the other verse is meditation on emptiness like a space, and this one is like meditation on emptiness like a illusion, you know. And so when we meditate on emptiness, you know, if in your meditation, if you are able to meditate correctly and deeply in the emptiness in your meditation sessions, then when you come out of that meditation sessions, then everything appears to you as more like a dream state, more like illusions, naturally. That is the effect or the functioning of that your strong meditative session on emptiness. So when you have that, then it comes naturally when you come out of that meditation session, and when you engage into the world, you know, when you see other persons, other people's surrounding everything. Even though there is an appearance of, beautiful objects, but the beautiful, like that, the beautiful object that you see in a dream or like an illusion or the magicians, so it's not as real, but more like unreal beautifulness. And if you there is appearance of unpleasantness, ugliness, or badness, again there is appearance of that, but more like an illusion, more like a dream state, more like a magician's trick, not as so real. And so when there is that, then you have less clinging, grasping attachments. The more stronger you believe it is so real, true, the more stronger your attachments towards a beautiful object. The more stronger your grasping and clinging is. The more you are able to see it as unreal, more like an illusion, more like a dream, then your attachments is less intense, less strong. Your clinging and grasping to the objects is less. And so that happens, that kind of appearance come naturally. But for us, when we don't have that kind of strong meditation state, even you try to meditate on emptiness, but still when you come out of that meditation session and when you engage in the world, things doesn't appear naturally like a dream, naturally like an illusion, like that. So then we have to remind ourselves. So training your mind, any object that appear to us beautiful, attractive, which we get attached to, and just reminding ourselves, even though it appears so attractive, so pleasant, so beautiful, but it is not exactly how things really exist. It is not as beautiful, real beautiful, truly beautiful, attractive, pleasant as it appeared to us. It's just like illusions due to our past imprint. It creates that kind of appearance. So therefore, there is an appearance, but you don't believe that. Okay? There is this appearance of truly beautiful objects, truly inherently pleasant object. There's appearance, but then by reminding yourself through your practice and understanding your meditation, reminding, there is appearance, but that is not how really it is. It's just like when you are watching a movie, you see one character, very characters, who's very, very bad character, very mean and cruel character, where you might get very upset and angry with that character itself. But then it is just someone playing a character. It's not real. You get it? So then you might not get as upset, as angry as if you have seen that person really happening. Do you get it? And so therefore there is a appearance of that, being a cruel, mean persons. But then it is just a movie. Someone just playing character. Just a play, is not real. So therefore you wouldn't have so much disturbance of your mind. Even though in some cases when they are so good, maybe some people can get disturbance to a certain level, but not to the same level if they know it's really happening. I don't know whether it was just a story or someone just made up, There's a story I heard, one Tibetan man, from Tibet came and someone took him to the movie, and he never had seen a movie. He never knew it was a movie, and they're watching, and then in that movie, many guys trying to beat up many guys together trying to gang of people trying to beat up and kill one person. And for him, it is so real. He didn't know what this was, just a movie, and so he really tried to kill the other person in order to save that person, with his knife. He wanted to throw the knife. So that is kind of feeling, that you could have. But if those who are watching the movie there, they wouldn't have same feelings, And so that is same to us, to remind us, even though it appears so real, but it is not truly existing as it appeared to us. And it is just like a dream. It is just like an illusion. So if we are able to remind that, then, our clinging, grasping, attachment can be less intense, less strong. And our clinging, grasping can be more loosened up, and then easy to let it go. And through that, then we try to reduce the attachments by using the wisdom of seeing the object of all the object of our attachment, like being like a beautiful rainbow in summer, or like illusions, or like egos. And then using the same kind of meditations, same kind of analysis, same kind of contemplations in dealing with the object of anger as well. So here, and then how to, like a death of the child in a dream, due to apprehending mistaken appearance, a variety of suffering. To be true, one become very wary. Therefore, is a practice of conquer children when encountering unfavorable conditions to view them as mistaken. So, again, when we encounter any kind of unfavorable conditions, painful conditions, unpleasant, painful conditions, problematic conditions, difficult conditions, we get bothered by that. Our mind gets kind of disturbed by those conditions, that kind of unfavorable, unpleasant, difficult conditions. And then it kind of, lead us to disturb, and we become unhappy about it, unhappy and miserable about encountering that kind of conditions, and that kind of make our frustrations and then lead to anger and hatred. So, and when we have anger and hatred, the level of the pain and suffering increases from being unhappy at the very beginning. When you encounter the unfavorable condition you are unhappy with, there is definitely your mind disturbed, unhappy. And then from that unhappiness, then, if we don't take care of that mind that is being unhappy and dissatisfied with that conditions, then that could lead to becoming frustrations. And when you become frustrated, then it's even more stronger of disturbance of your mind, more painful. And then that if we don't take care of that frustration, then eventually it leads to become angry and hatred, and the level of your disturbance of your mind, miserableness, multiply and increases, you know. And when we have angry, then definitely, as I mentioned before, it destroys our goodness of loving kindness, compassion. It destroys our virtues, certain level of, certain amount of virtues that we have created in the past, and all of that. And so a lot of, so how to kind of let go of that. And the more, so again, when there is when you encounter, you know, unfavorable, difficult, painful situation or conditions, to us, it appears that, you know, unfavorable, unpleasant, painful, difficult condition as being so real and truly unfavorable, truly painful, truly obstacles, truly unpleasant, all of that. And the more there is appearance, and not only there is appearance, then you believe that is how it is, you know, is truly unpleasant condition, truly painful condition, truly that this and these conditions. And the more you believe and grasp as that being truly unpleasant, truly unfavorable, truly painful, the more stronger unhappy you are with that condition, the more stronger aversion you have with that conditions, the more stronger frustration you have with that conditions. And that will lead you to more stronger anger and hatred. Maybe towards the condition itself or towards someone we believe whoever has created that conditions. And so, but again, even though that conditions appear to us, you know, real, truly and real, unpleasant, painful, unfavorable, difficult, whatever, but knowing it is not believing, even though there is appearance, but it is not how things really exist, you know, and not believing that is not how truly, that is not how, not as real, as true as it appeared to us. And by understanding it's like a dream, you know. In the dream, we dream of someone, death of your child, you know. And if we don't realize it is a dream, the pain, the suffering, the grief will be intense, strong. And that kind of grief, that kind of, but when you realize, oh, it is just a dream, then you feel relief. You realize, oh, it was just a dream. It was not real. It was just a dream. So then you don't experience such an intense grief and pain and suffering and sadness and all those different emotions. Then you can kind of let go of, even you are feeling that little bit of that pain, sadness, a little bit. The moment you realize it's a dream, then you can kind of let it go and become loosen up, weak, and you don't feel so strongly now. Same way, we try to apply that, you know, and then it is just like a dream. The way things appear to us, the thing does not exist the way things appear to us. The way thing appears is so real, but that's not how the real thing exists that way. And then, as we mentioned yesterday, not only they appear so real as unpleasant or pleasant, favorable, unfavorable, but existing from its, objectively from its own side. But if we really analyze this, what is pleasant, what is unpleasant, what is favorable, what is unfavorable, what is beautiful, what is not beautiful, more than the object side is coming from your mind. Is coming from your mind. Subject. One, due to, I think it was Pema Sambhawa, I think Guru Rinpoche, as he said, nothing exists inherently because everything exists due to our karma. So what appears to us is due to our karma. Due to our karma, same situation can appear something favorable. For someone, it can appear as unfavorable due to our karma. Let's just say the weather, hot weather. For some people, it is favorable. For some people, it's unfavorable because of their body conditions. Because of their body conditions, because of their like and dislike, and all because of our karma, we have certain body conditions. And so some people are more intolerant. Their body is more intolerant to heat. For some people, their body is more intolerant to the coldness, And that your body being intolerant, definitely there is external conditions as well, but also due to our karma being there. And so therefore, that weather, whether hot or cold, becoming favorable or unfavorable, does not come from that object itself. It's more from your body or your liking and disliking it. And it could be with everything, place, For some places, New Mexico is favorable. For some people, it's unfavorable. So for some people, being around oceans is favorable place. For some, it's unfavorable. So again, whether the dryness, for example, in this place, is favorable for some people is unfavorable. But that favorable conditions or unfavorable conditions is more coming from your own side, your body reactions, your body tolerance, or sometimes your mind, a lot of time your mind of whether what you like or what you dislike. It's clear, isn't it? When we really think like that, it's become clear. But like normally when something bad happens or is miserable because I don't think because it is me, it is there, that make me miserable. The weather is making me miserable. And the miserableness is created by the weather itself, nothing to do with my physical tolerance, my physical reactions, or my liking or disliking of certain things or not. It's just feel like that, and that is it. That's the same with everything. And everything, something, even about something we feel about good, bad, true, untrue, something which we feel true for someone is we are ignorant. For someone, we feel they are ignorant. They feel they are truth. From which side we are looking. But for us, When we feel truth, we feel, is truth there? It is, I didn't create anything. It is nothing to do with me. It's the truth. Not only with the different people, even your own could change. So many things, about so many things which you feel it was truth. Later you find out you are just ignorant. But when you felt so truth about it, if someone says you are just ignorant, you will freak out and you will be so upset and angry, We feel there is nothing to do with my mind. I didn't make up anything. That is the reality, the truth. That is how we feel so strongly. We wouldn't accept that was truth, that moment. But we have found in our life many times, which we felt so strong and thought that was the truth. Later we found out it was just a mistake, ignorance. Beneficial, not beneficial, same things. A lot of things that I found beneficial when I was young, I don't find anymore beneficial. A lot of things I found unbeneficial when I was young, I feel beneficial now. Something I feel beneficial now, I might find it unbeneficial tomorrow. Something I feel unbeneficial now, tomorrow I might find beneficial. So it is not the object itself, the condition itself. It is my response, the way I look at it, whether it is beneficial or not beneficial. And you find that everywhere, even in politics. I've met some people who said they were, in certain of their life, they were very kind of core, kind of believer one particular politic and parties. And now they're just opposite side. Due to certain situations and incidents in their life, now they have got just the opposite side. Before, his view was, this is the truth, the other are on the ignorant side. Now he is this side, now he is the truth, and these are the ignorant side. This is interesting. And we think, no, I can never become like that, It's truth, and I can never become ignorant like those ignorant ones. Well, never know. Next time, anyone who has same view now the view you have now, you might feel they are ignorant. And so it is, and that is where I think the teachings, the Buddhas talk about ultimate reality and truth and all of that. But at the end, he also said, even the emptiness, which is the ultimate reality, itself is not truly existence. That break down everything, And that is the key. For us, we hold on that kind of ultimate truth there. That ultimate truth is ultimate. And so therefore, everything is relative, conventional, relatively, existence. Once we have that, even a little bit of understanding that, realization, our mind can become more flexibility, more open. At the moment, our mind is so fixed, so narrow fixed, because we believe everything exists truly from objectively. But once you understand a lot of things is how we encounter and how we relate with everything, experience everything more coming from our karma, coming from our mind, subjective, all of that. then, our mind become more open and more flexibility. Even though you don't believe, even though you have certain belief, and even though there is that, but at least you have this openness that I could be wrong. Do you get it? At least there is this openness that I could be wrong. They could be right. Just having that doesn't mean I have to believe what they believe, but just having that openness that I could be wrong, even though I believe this is the truth, even though I believe this is the right way, but at the same time I could be wrong and they could be right. That openness, that flexibility make you to not to have such a negative feelings about others. No. Thinking, well, I believe I'm right, but I could be wrong. Just that happening. I believe I'm right, but I could be wrong. I believe they are wrong, but they could be right. And I think, if we can go about in our life with that kind of attitude, I think we will not experience so much of disappointment, and we will not encounter a lot of problem that we encounter. A lot of disappointment because we believe this is right, this is wrong, and sometimes we find out that was not the case. But just having this openness, the possibility of that being right or wrong, or that will not then you say, oh, I thought it could have happened like that. And so, so if we can bring that that kind of understanding in our everyday life, in our every experiences and situation, that I think we will feel less pain. We will be less disappointed. We will have less negative feelings towards others. And that with that openness, flexibility, it gives you better foundations to kind of to be able to kind of accept whatever things change happens. You see something favorable, but then it turn out to be unfavorable. Something you feel is unfavorable turn out unfavorable. Still, because of that flexibility, whatever it turns out, you have a better foundations to kind of embrace, accept. And when you are able to embrace and accept to the new reality, new changes that's happening in our life, you will be more peace with yourself, more peace with the situations. And then when you are more happy and peace with yourself, with the situation, then it does not give rise to a lot of frustration, anger, and hatred, and many other negative emotions, feelings. And so I think, so that is how we can apply. Yeah. So I will stop here.